Hi, I'm Dr. Mark Lewinter, licensed acupuncturist at Metro Acupuncture in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm here with my lovely co-host, acupuncture partner, and mom, Dr. Andrea Lewinter. Mom, how are you doing today?
I'm well, Mark. How are you doing today?
Doing great. I am very excited about today's topic. How about you?
I'm very excited about today's topic too, because there's so much conversation about diabetes and what you can do to help. So I think that we'll have some nice offerings today.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about a way that you can reduce your risk of type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance, and why it's so important to build muscle as you age, and also how East Asian medicine had an understanding of healthy muscles and reducing the risk of type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance hundreds of years before there was a scientific explanation. The explanation is different, but it is profound that there was an understanding of the amount of sugar we take in and the muscles in East Asian medicines. Let's jump right to it. I am sorry to say that muscle loss actually begins around age 30, and we lose about 3 to 8% of muscle mass per decade. And this rate can accelerate after age 60. And by age 80, it can be up to 30 to 50% of total muscle mass that is lost. This condition is called sarcopenia, and it can be linked to falls, fragility, and chronic disease. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes and how that risk increases with age. Insulin helps move glucose from the blood into the cells, especially muscle cells. As we age, insulin sensitivity naturally declines. By age 65, nearly 25% of adults have type 2 diabetes, and many more are pre-diabetic. Muscle loss means fewer glucose receptors and that more glucose stays in the blood. And this leads to insulin resistance and over time, type 2 diabetes. So, why is muscle crucial for blood sugar control? Skeletal muscle uses 70 to 80% of the glucose that is taken up after a meal. And muscle acts as a reservoir, storing it as glycogen and burning it for energy. Healthy muscle has more glucose transporters to take in sugar. Less muscle equals less glucose tolerance from the blood and higher insulin demand. The benefits of strength training increases muscle mass and metabolic activity. This boosts glucose transporter expression on muscle cells, improves insulin sensitivity in both diabetic and non diabetic individuals, can lower A1C by 0.5 to 1% with regular training. And even weight training 2 to 3 times a week can significantly improve glucose control. This works at any age. It works for people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond. So the thing to know is that with more muscle, we have better blood sugar regulation. Muscle loss increases the risk of type 2 diabetes, and that strength training is one of the most effective tools for preventing and managing insulin resistance. And we can start now. My mom was going to throw these away. Look at this nice 3 pound weight. Sometimes do all sorts of things with it. I'll lift this 3 pound weight. She also gave me this 5 pound weight. So if I want to do something that maybe go behind the back or something where I want to just work some muscle, I am not going to be entering the Southeastern Atlantic bodybuilding competition this year. Okay. I am not interested in building extreme muscle mass. I am very interested. They say all research is me search. And I am very interested in reducing my risk of type 2 diabetes and reducing my risk of insulin resistance. I have a family history of type 2 diabetes. My father has type 2 diabetes, and I don't want it. It just does not seem like a good time. And so I have these weights near my TV. I've got it's a 15-pound weight, so that backwards, and I'll do a couple reps, and I just have a deep appreciation that we lose muscle mass as we age. This is something that we've got to work on. I believe that a lot of people have this belief that the reason I can't build muscle is because I don't have a gym membership or I have a membership, but I'm not going to the gym. There's a lot of things that we can do at home that are need to be age appropriate. And like I said, it's not to get you pumped up for a bodybuilding competition, but it's to improve your health. There's a proverb, it says, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. I think I can count the amount of times I've chopped wood in my life on one. Okay. I think chopping wood must, if you had to do that all the time, it would suck. Okay. I feel so fortunate that the only times I've had to carry water were when was camping and would need to carry water to my campsite. The proverb isn't before enlightenment, play video games. After enlightenment, play video games. It could apply, but the proverb isn't before enlightenment, order your food on Instacart. After enlightenment, order your food on Instacart. We need to lift heavy things. We need to continue. If we don't use it, we lose it. And we are losing it as we age, and our cells are becoming less efficient. So I feel incredibly fortunate that I have access to clean water. And I feel so fortunate that if I needed someone to deliver groceries to me, that could happen. But I also think that there's a great value to having things be in a range that will not cause injury, be hard, be challenging for the body, and to do a little bit of that on a regular basis.
I love what you said, Mark, because you don't have to have a gym membership. I brought a couple things here that usually when we buy something at the grocery store, we buy two. So we're going to use one and then we have an extra one. So, for example, this is 5 pounds. And again, you're sitting in front of the TV or laying on the floor. You can take this and you can do some chest raises. Okay. Again, all we want to do is, and you don't have to do 300 of them. What you alluded to is you're not going to be a bodybuilder. This is just something that we can spend really a few minutes of the day using. This was another one. This is 3.5 pounds. This is liquid detergent. Again, I'm putting it in the cupboard or I'm lying down doing this, or I can put it on my ankles and lift my feet with it a little bit. So there are all kinds of things. This was just for fun. We can have a quinoa and rice party. These are each 1 pound. So we can start with something small and do curls. Again, we don't want to hurt ourselves. We don't want to do things. But these are things that we have in our home. And we can set whatever it happens to be on the scale, see how much it weighs, and do a few reps. One of your favorite, Talmud. Okay. This is 1.5 pounds. Again, you can do so much with just the curls, leg presses. We can get down on the floor if we want to and just press our hands on the floor, get our body raised off the floor, hold that just for a few seconds. That's strengthening the arms and the legs tremendously. So there are all kinds of things. A lot of people like those stretchy bands, and they're pretty inexpensive. There's all kinds of things on the internet showing you how to work with these, doing the legs and so on and so forth. So important, particularly as we age, not only for diabetes, which is what we're talking about today, but just the how as we age, things get a little bit looser, so we wanna tighten those things up around our joints, and our muscles are there to do that because we don't wanna fall and break anything.
So a part of this interest in doing this video with you today, Mom, was I watched a video by a physician explaining a study that was done in Japan, and the results were profound. It really made a big difference in me making the decision that I need to continue to lift weights. We're going to put a link below, and this physician explains it in great detail. We're just going to cover a little bit of the top layer. But why don't you talk a little bit about the study participants, the categories, and the results? Because it's wonderful.
So this was a randomized study. The people that were chosen only had to have one particular characteristic, and that was that their A1C was at a level not greater than 180 and have been diagnosed with either prediabetes or diabetes. So they were in that population already. They broke the group into 3 modules. The first module was that these folks were only going to do weightlifting. The second module group of participants was only going to do cardio, and the cardio was either treadmill, elliptical, or a stationary bike.
Oh, and then there was you mentioned two so far, and then and then they had to do Did they do three? They had three
And
groups,
and then they did a group that did both the cardio and weightlifting.
right? And I would have thought I'm a runner. I love running. I thought, oh, like the cardio would be good, but it showed that the best improvement was with in terms of, I think, reducing the A1C, right?
Yes.
Was with the weightlifting group.
Yeah. And I just wanted to mention the A1C because numbers and words get tossed around. And the only relevance is if we do a glucose stick, we're getting that in real time. And that can change in 10 minutes. But the A1C value, which is measured in micrograms per deciliter, is giving you a picture of 3 months. And that's why that's a significant number because our glucose levels can rise and fall and do all kinds of things, but we want to know what is happening to you over time. So this study was done for 9 months. So
Wow.
significant period of time.
Yeah.
And what they found is the people that did the weightlifting had the most statistically significant change in their A1C, coming down and stabilizing over the 9-month period of time. The cardio people had a similar experience, but not nearly as dramatic. And then the one that did both the cardio and the weightlifting, they were similar again to the weightlifting group, except it wasn't as steep or as sustained results.
Yeah.
So one of the things that he said was, wait a minute, we have to look and see why this happens. And what you introduced is that muscle mass. There were some other studies that were done, but the people were essentially in that BMI of morbidly obese.
Yeah, exactly. If someone loses weight, there's going to be a benefit to that. But
To
in this
cardio.
case,
Yeah.
these individuals were in a healthy range. So it's like, what else can I do? You can build muscle.
Yes.
And that information got me curious and wanting to learn more about what muscle needs, which is sugar, and how more muscle can decrease insulin resistance. So it's an amazing study, and we're going to put the link of that video, which explains the study in great detail. And I think that you're really going to like it. I did mention that traditional East Asian medicine had an awareness of this. And now this can be, we're getting into a little bit of the 5 element model, and we're going to talk about the earth element. And the earth element includes many things. We've mentioned the 5 element perspective and how it can include a sound, a color, an emotion. It can include a job. It can include feelings. It's just, the list can go on and on. It's near and dear to my heart because I look at the world almost through the 5 element model. It can include a season, a temperature, you name it. And the earth element, one of the things that includes the earth element as it relates to the body is muscle. Okay. But also the flavor of the earth element is sweetness. So in that yin yang perspective, you can have too little of something. So too little. And the sweetness that they're talking about is kind of like a whole sweetness, like a whole grain, maybe a brown rice or a grain that hasn't been stripped, not a white rice that may produce more glucose into the body quicker, or a white sugar. We're talking about this something that is a whole grain. So you can have not enough nourishment and you could have muscle wasting, or you could have over nourishment, like too much sweet. And the muscles, the earth element, what does it take to move the earth? It takes muscles. So they were just noticing this connection between nourishment and muscles. And I find that fantastic.
And movement, yes.
Yeah. 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 So
Gotta move those muscles.
I I pulled out my weights here and the weights that you gave me. You pulled out your cleaning products and your grains. And I'm in my 50s. I'm soon to be 52. You're how old?
Very old.
Hey, but doing great. And we do not want to have these metabolic conditions, that we really have to fight against them, and we have to do work to reduce them. It's within our reach, whether it be something like a food product that's heavy and we can lift that, or weights. Not opposed to going to the gym. Going to the gym can make it easier. It can provide a social components, but building muscle is available to you today. And remember that we want to do it long term.
Yeah, and that's why the gym is wonderful.
Some people get gym memberships.
People
They don't use it, and then there can be an emotional thing and they feel bad, they're spending the money, they know they should do it. So, if you're in that dynamic, find a way to work that out, because the most important thing is to lift something heavy enough to either maintain or build muscle.
And that's why we can do these things at home. We're not required to go outside of our home to do this because a lot of people just don't like that environment. So don't let that stop you is really what we're encouraging. And the things that we talked about, like the stretchy bands, they're very inexpensive, can get them at any sporting goods shop. Things like little handheld weights. Again, not expensive. Don't have to get the whole set or build a room in your house. These are little things that we can do. We spend a lot of time in front of our screens, and being there, we can do just a little bit of a workout.
That's
So
right. It doesn't take a lot, just a little bit here and there.
a little bit here and there.
There's so much information on the internet, on YouTube, as to different routines that one can do that are age appropriate and also based on one's skill level. The things that a beginner should do are very different than someone who's advanced, but getting that movement, beginning to understand that we will experience muscle loss and we want to fight a good fight against it, and more muscle mass is going to help us in so many ways.
And I like one of the things that he said at the very end of his conversation is find something that's going to bring you joy. Starting with something small, maybe in your home, finding something that, gee, I'm feeling a little bit better. My muscles are moving a little bit more. All these things are available in the home. Like you mentioned, the YouTubes, or there's programs that you can do. Find something that's going to bring joy into your heart and bring wellness into your body.
Yeah, I agree with that. I find that lifting the weights doesn't bring joy into my heart, but what it does is I notice, and I've been doing this more The past few weeks, I've noticed that I have more definition. Be patient with yourself. If it can bring you joy, great. If it doesn't bring you joy and you do it anyway and it builds muscle mass, you're still getting your risk of type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance is going down, even though you don't have the joy. Okay. So, Andrea, Dr. Lewinter, my mom is saying, find something that brings you joy. I agree. But if you're one of those people who can't find joy, still lift weights. Because joy or no joy, your muscle mass is going to decrease. So lift something heavy for yourself
Daily.
daily. Sure. I think we covered it all. And if you have any soreness from lifting muscles or you've done too much, come on in. We don't want any injury to prevent you from continuing to build muscle. If you recently experienced an illness where you were hospitalized, you were not able to move, we experience muscle loss very quickly that way. So if you need to feel more energized, and a greater sense of well-being so that you can begin to do a workout routine that's helpful for you, come in and see us. We focus on holistic health, wellness, improving organ function, and we're Metro Acupuncture in Atlanta, Georgia, and we'd be glad to see you so we can help you feel better.
Thank you for your listening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.